champ is here!
It's just a man!
Give me a hell yeah!
What the Rock is cooking.
To be the man, you have to be the man! Big Papa Pump! It's your hookup!
Fallen!
Holla! And the end!
Woo, woo, woo!
Cup of coffee in the big game.
What did you think I would do at this moment when you're standing before me with tears in your eyes? We're back with another episode of Working the Mark. And I am the GOAT of the show, Patty Rican Abdul-Jabbar, and he is Macho Rodriguez, the Pitbull. Mach, we're feeling a little light today. How you feeling?
Oh, I'm good, brother. I'm good. I'm ready to talk some wrestling, get into it. Looks like we're missing somebody today.
Yeah. The holy trinity of professional wrestling punditry is not with us today.
Yeah.
I believe there was something about a Titanic reenactment or something to that effect, but he'll hopefully be joining us at some point. At this rate, he's like a special attraction. He's like the Undertaker with the undefeated streak at WrestleMania. Like, when is Fernando going to return to work in the marks for an episode? But hopefully he'll be back with us next week. We'll see what happens. Mach, how you been? How's the family? How's life? How's it going?
Family's good. Life is good. Just, trying to get this thing off the ground here and just excited to get into it. Here we got some really good topics today.
We certainly have some good topics, and I bet you like my hat, too.
I do. I love it, man.
I'm feeling 4-0. I know you're feeling 4-0. I know the rest of the faithful are feeling 4-0. Got a big one coming along. A big one this weekend, taking on the Cowboys on Sunday night. Real shame Fernando can't be here today. We'd love to have him for the banter, but again, he'll be joining us hopefully in the future. But, be nice to see how the Niners do this weekend.
He's preparing for a funeral.
Really excited. I'm sorry, for what?
He's preparing for a funeral.
He's preparing for a funeral? How do you prepare for a funeral? What do you practice crying?
I don't know. Ask the Dallas Cowboys when they get killed by the 49ers.
Oh, wow, D. Cold-blooded. Cold-blooded.
I'm a Raiders fan.
Right there.
Oh, he's a Raider? Oh, fuck the Raiders. Yeah,
whoa.
Come on, man. That's a Bay Area beef, bro. All right? Come on. But anyways, football aside, this ain't a football show, as you obviously, can't tell. I mean, it's a wrestling show. And a big event, huge event. Some people say it's the greatest event that's ever happened. Wrestledream, wonderful event, great people. You think you know him. He knows, what he allows you to know. He showed up, the guy that everybody's talking about in the wrestling world, Adam Copeland, a.k.a. Edge, FKA Edge, made his debut at Wrestledream in Seattle, Washington this past weekend. Came out after the matchup between Christian Cage and Darby Allin, where Darby Allin looked like he died about 7 times, and Christian kept the turtleneck on. And came out to a huge pop. Nice little video package there that they put together. But more importantly, came out to Metalingus by Alter Bridge, which was a huge shock. Mach, tell me how you felt about this.
I thought it was strange. I wasn't really expecting him to pop out. I really thought, they're just giving Christian the main event because it's Darby. He's one of the pillars. As the match progressed, once they started beating him down after the match, I kind of knew something was coming. I really appreciated the whole Grindhouse vibe of his opening trailer. Big fan of that movie. Big fan of those that double feature, and really thought that it was placed well. To see him come out to Metalingus, have Beth Phoenix do the "You Think You Know Me." I thought that was pretty cool.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Was that the first time AEW used a vignette?
They've done it before.
That's a great question.
But for a debut?
For a debut, no, absolutely not. No, that was the first time that I've seen one for a debut like that. It's clear that Edge definitely has some insight as to what he wants done with his character and his career. So I think I'm more so surprised with the after effect is the fact that he's full time now. I thought that was interesting. So that to me means that he's done filming Percy Jackson. you're going to be a full-timer. You're going to be there every single week. They already have them booked for the next 4 shows.
Wow. Well, I mean, look, you got to think a signing like that for AEW, especially after losing CM Punk, after losing Jade Cargill, shit, we could even go even farther back, Cody Rhodes. You needed somebody to step up to the plate, to be that guy, to be that person that's going to attract you some new fans, maybe get some people to change the channel or not just watch one company during the week. Edge could potentially be that. We saw that there's some reports from WrestleTix that other tickets have been allocated outside of what they were given. I believe close to 200 seats more, which, hey, you know what? That's 200 people, man. You know, and for a company that's struggling with attendance, I think that would be a nice little boost in the arm. Will it be sustainable? I don't know. Do you think that Adam Copeland could be the guy to help AEW maybe get back in the million range in the ratings?
I guess we'll find out. I mean, their first big show is this Wednesday. If they hit 1 million, then obviously it's started something. If Collision hits anywhere close to, 1 million, even if they do like 850K, it's still the best show that they've had since the first show. So I guess time will tell. We'll find out tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. The Punk show was probably the highest rated show that they ever did, the debut. But I think that the ratings getting back into that million range, that's going to take a little time. I think that's going to take time and effort as far as storytelling is concerned to bring people in, to get them interested in Adam Copeland in AEW. Obviously, he has a built-in audience. He has a built-in base outside from the regular, run-of-the-mill WWE fans. This is a guy who's been around, 30 years in the business, 25 years of them in WWE. He's certainly amassed a huge following in that subsequent time. But do you think that perhaps his impact will be felt more with the attendance and maybe helping to bump that up before it helps the ratings?
Absolutely. I think attendance is going to be the first thing that hits. I think they already said that like Dynamite was almost sold out tonight, just based off the fact that Edge was going to be on the show just to cut a promo. And that's all he's going to do. He's going to come on. He's just going to talk. So he said he was going to address the whole reason he had that interaction with Christian. And then, you saw that he picked Luchasaurus as his first opponent, which is very strange to me. Maybe he has a good feeling about Luchasaurus. I don't know. That's weird. Maybe he just wanted to cross that off his bucket list, wrestle a dinosaur. We'll see. I definitely am excited to see what happens. It's definitely a reason to tune in.
Gotcha. So in the long run, though, do you think that Edge could be that difference maker, could be that MVP for them? And more on MVPs later on. But do you think that he could be that MVP for them that CM Punk was?
No, I do not.
Gotcha.
I think that CM Punk was somebody that we wanted as a wrestling community for 7.5 years. Everybody was angry at the way he left. They sided with him. They were backing him. They chanted him all the time, especially whenever you were anywhere near the Midwest. So I feel like Edge is one of those guys that he just jumped ship. I mean, that's all it was. It's the equivalent of Bryan or Adam Cole jumping over. Like, I don't mean to compare him to those guys, but I don't know if it'll make that big of a difference. We'll see. I think there's already, I guess we should talk about it now. It seems like the wrestling fan bases, the internet wrestling community is kind of already like angry with him. There are even checkmarked Twitter pages that are calling for him to be kicked out of the WWE Hall of Fame. So I don't believe he has a chance to be the MVP for the show.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, their issues are a lot bigger than just one guy with a name coming in to help spike the ratings. It could be a start in some ways, but I think the structural issues in AEW are a lot worse. And I think that that's the stuff that needs to be repaired. And more importantly, just producing better programming, better content that hooks in a newer audience besides that niche audience, that hardcore wrestling base that Tony Khan has seemed to grow as if they were mushrooms kept inside of a box. And to some extent, a lot of them have been pretty toxic. To your point, talking about this stuff with Adam Copeland and saying he should be removed from the WWE Hall of Fame simply because this man decided to go somewhere for more money. I don't think it's that much more complicated. Obviously WWE's under new ownership. Endeavor wasn't willing to pony up that cash, but Tony Khan did. And good for him. good for Edge, good for Tony Khan, good for everybody involved. You know, it's at least going to be a little bit more interesting for them for a while. We'll see where it goes. But I'm with you. I don't think this is going to be the long-term solution. Obviously, outside of Adam Copeland's debut, I got to get used to calling him Adam Copeland now. Outside of Adam Copeland's debut at Wrestledream, there was also a wrestling show. And there were a bunch of matches, some of which started out on the pre-show as well, you know, as went over to the pay-per-view. I know what you're probably going to say, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. What was your standout moment of Wrestledream, the show, besides the Adam Copeland debut?
It's definitely Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. 1,000%. Anything that comes close to it is Swerve and Page. That's
Okay.
what I felt like was the
I'm
closest
with you.
second. Everything else on the show could have been on a Dynamite.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I gotta agree with you. I was a little underwhelmed by the card. Yeah, and nothing really felt special outside of the Danielson Zack Sabre Jr. match. The main event didn't even really feel like anything. I mean, you know, to your point, all this other stuff could have really just happened on Dynamite. Adam Page and Swerve, I really dug because I've really been enjoying Swerve's work. I like Adam Page as well. I know, you know, it might not be a popular thing, but I like Adam Page. I think there's a lot of potential there. I think he's a very talented guy. And I just felt that this was going to be a matchup that I think was going to serve Swerve a lot and help elevate his perception within the company by defeating a former champion. The matchup itself was good, but I don't think it was as good as Zack Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson. What were some of the things that really made that matchup so good for you?
I love the way Bryan sold for him. So what I mean by that is every time Bryan had a move on Zack Sabre Jr., whatever it was, the transition from Zack was almost like he had spent the past 15 years preparing for this match. That was the story that was told to me. So whenever like Bryan would get him in a submission, Zack had a perfect counter for it. And what I loved even more was every time Zack put Bryan in a submission, he didn't necessarily have the counter for it. So it was almost like he was helping build Zack Sabre as a star for the company. I thought that was really great. I think what I enjoyed the most was the fact that, and I was, that this was confirmed for me after with Bryan's promo, was that Bryan had to kind of, he wasn't able to keep up with Sabre and he had to go away and he had to add the striking element and he had to beat him with the knee. I thought to myself, I was like, wow, what a great story being told. And then when Bryan cuts the promo after where he says, like, I don't feel like I'm the best technical wrestler in the world, it was almost like a confirmation, like, wow, like I was right. What I was watching, that's exactly what it was here. Like Bryan couldn't keep up with him. So he had to move away from the technical ability. I thought that was great.
Absolutely. I love the fluidity of the chain wrestling, how every spot went into it, how they created false finishes out of it. The striking element I thought was very, very interesting. And I'm with you. That's the gist of the story that I got from the match that was being told. But, you know, I mean, again, dude, this is just a further testament to the brilliance of Bryan Danielson. You know, this guy can go out there. He can take a guy who's well known to wrestling fans and can make him look like a star and can make him look like a guy that's better than him. And what else do you really need from a name that big and from a main event guy at the top of your card? Were you surprised at all at the result of the match with Danielson winning, or how did you see this one playing out initially? So
initially, I thought Sabre was going over until last week. Last week, I made when I made my predictions for the show, I was like, yeah, Bryan's going over only because Ospreay called him out. Once I saw that, I was like, well, Ospreay's the guy. He's the guy that everybody loves right now. He's the meal ticket. He's who everybody wants to work. And the moment he started talking about working Bryan, it felt to me like AEW is going to continue to build Bryan as that guy who beats anybody, who can beat anybody from any promotion, any piece of the world. So that way, when he ultimately goes up against Ospreay, if Ospreay gets the win, it actually puts him over better. That's kind of how I felt about it.
Yeah, that certainly makes a lot of sense. Obviously, with the Bryan Danielson farewell tour in full effect, you got to think that he's going to keep winning out. You got to think that at some point or another, he's going to get an opportunity at that championship. And it would be nice to see him finally get that title. But in the meantime, I mean, the wrestling that we're getting is going to be fantastic. It's going to be next level. And I certainly look forward to that next encounter based on the Danielson promo, which you had talked about, where he said that he doesn't feel like he's the best technical wrestler. He kind of left it a little open-ended. Zack Sabre Jr. left it open-ended. I hope to see it in Japan at some point. I still would like to see Danielson in Japan, take on Okada over there, take on all these names over there. I think it would just be really, really great for wrestling and particularly Danielson fans. But obviously, one of the matches of the year on a pretty good show, not a great show, but certainly a show where you could see that AEW is moving in some type of a direction post CM Punk. But this matchup was certainly a standout, and one that I think young wrestlers out there should study, should learn from, should maybe perhaps incorporate a thing or two from this matchup. But definitely the standout match of the Wrestledream pay-per-view. Moving on, we got some news. So I don't know if it was last week or if it was the week before, but I'm pretty sure that we had seen a comment from the Dungeon podcast stating that Triple H and Stephanie were apparently getting divorced. Obviously, when you see a lot of these rumors, you got to kind of think to yourself, okay, is this fake news? What's going on here? Somebody trolling, somebody working. I'm not seeing it from enough outlets, but apparently it made the rounds enough to get into the hands of one Mr. Kevin Nash. And Kevin Nash on his Click This podcast, which I'm a fan of. Shout out to the Click This podcast with Sean Oliver, West New York, New Jersey's own Sean Oliver on there as well. They had spoke about Triple H and Kevin Nash having a conversation pertaining to this internet rumor. So I'm going to quote a little bit of it here for you, and I'd certainly like to get your thoughts on this match. Kevin Nash said that he had texted Paul and he said, "You okay? Everything all right? I'm here for you if you need anything." He's just like, "What's happening in my life?" I said, "Social media says that you're splitting with Stephanie and you guys are getting a divorce." He responds to me, "Fuck it. I wish somebody would have told me that before I get dragged to this JV football game and my girl's fucking cheerleading." He says, "I just love to find out about what's going on in my life through the internet." I'm sure that probably would upset me because he finally probably has a day off where it's family time, and it's just like, no, some trolls got to fuck with you on your day off. So I think it's safe to say that Triple H has dispelled the rumor of he and Stephanie's imminent divorce. Macho, what did you think when you heard this news?
I thought it was laughable. Honestly, before From the Dungeon actually posted that in our thread there, I honestly had not heard of that at all, had not seen a single rumor. So I was like, wow, I was just as shocked. I believe that in our pre-show last week before, when it was actually said, I remember thinking to myself, wow, like, this is the first time I'm hearing this. Like, I did not know this was going on. And I was like, wow, that sucks for them. But now to know that Triple H has kind of dispelled the rumors, like, okay, well, that's why we didn't hear about it from any credible sources, because it wasn't real.
Yeah, obviously. I kind of did think it was baloney when I saw it. And again, you have to take everything that you see on the internet, not just with wrestling, with everything with a grain of salt until you see enough proof and enough facts in it. What did you think of Kevin Nash's response to all this and how he dealt with it and how he handled it?
I mean, I thought he was a pretty cool guy. I mean, the first text felt real. The second text felt like, now I'm going to work him and see what he says to me. That's what it kind of felt like to me.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, goes to show you, folks, don't believe everything that you read on the internet. Moving along, we have a little bit more news, this time from a released wrestler, Rick Bugenhagen. I hope I said that right. Bugenhagen, aka Rick Boogs. Rick Boogs has been, pretty controversial lately and making the news cycles with a lot of the statements that he's made since his release from WWE. Apparently, he had taken to, I believe, an Instagram story or to Facebook Live, and he had spoke about some of what had happened and described his release as a political power play. He said, "It's been an interesting time in my life with my job in WWE being terminated due to a backstage political power play. At least that's my opinion of it. But now is not the time to talk about that. I will get into detail about that when the time is right. He went on to also reveal that he can say with 100% certainty the removal of Vince McMahon killed his career. When Rick Boogs went on a bit more as he described a grudge someone had against him. He said, and I quote, "Pretty much everyone in the corporate side of the company agreed about him being the ideal WWE star due to his size, look, and personality, which is why I was always the third-party guy doing commercials for Old Spice, Snickers, Mike's Hard Lemonade, and Toyota. However, one person clearly has a weird grudge against me." He also went on to say that pro wrestling is stupid. He also said a number of other things. But Mach, is there any truth, do you think, to what Rick Boogs is talking about, or is he working the marks?
So do I believe that when Vince McMahon left that he probably suffered for it? Yes. He does seem like a Vince guy. Do I believe that people had a grudge against him? No. I think he's just trying to get his name out there. He's doing the same thing that Road Dogg does when he talks about sports entertainment and the Young Bucks and Bret Hart. People don't mention him, and he's like, you know what? I'm just going to say something so crazy that people are going to react to me. So, yeah, I don't take any credit. I don't actually think that there's anything to worry about. I don't think it's anything we need to pay attention to. I think it's just somebody who's bitter, who's angry, who feels like he was never given a fair shot. His injury had a lot to do with it. And that's pretty much it. That's all I have to say about that.
I'll be honest. At one point, I think he was very over. The crowd was with him. The whole Nakamura partnership I thought was really great. You know, who knows? They might have won the tag titles, you know, barring his injury. But I mean, this was a guy who, you know, yeah, he's got the Herculean look. He looks like a figure. Do I think that he was more of a Vince McMahon guy? Yeah, absolutely. I think he was a guy also that was willing to go that extra leap and bound to get the character over, to get more people invested in Rick Boogs as a character. Mm-hmm. And it does make you wonder, because if they're putting this guy in all these commercials like Mike's Hard Lemonade, like Toyota, like all these other things, you got to think that they see something in him enough to promote them on behalf of their brand. But it could be, you know, again, it could be baloney. It could be maybe he just had a lousy attitude. It's a lot of things to consider. But obviously stuff like this, you know, the certain subsect of the group of the anti-WWE fans are going to be all over this like white on rice. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the big bad machine ruined them. But nobody's going to really want to hear that it's Vince that was lobbying for this guy all along. Obviously, we'll see what happens with Rick Boogs between now and then. It has been rumored that some people that have been released will be returning to the company in some type of capacity in the near future, perhaps for modified deals. That remains to be seen, but we'll be keeping an eye out certainly for what happens soon. In other news, there's been rumors making the rounds of more NXT call-ups coming up soon. I know that we just had NXT No Mercy over the weekend, another fantastic show from them. I mean, the brand is just flying high right now, and you know they're just performing. I mean, like it's great, like it's nobody's business. You know, it's top level stuff. Obviously, they have a lot of great, talented young people there, and you know they do have a lot of people that I certainly believe have potential to be stars on the main roster. Who are some of the names that jump out to you from NXT, possibly getting this call up in the immediate future?
Well, Carmelo Hayes, definitely. Trick Williams. What's her name? Cora Jade. Tiffany Stratton. Roxanne Perez. And Braun Breaker. Those are the only ones that I actually see that are ready for the next spot. I feel like if he had more time to work, I feel like that guy Joe Gacy would be really good for the next spot. I just feel like he's not given enough opportunity to work for his current brand. So... to be quite honest with you, having John Cena and Paul Heyman be a part of next Tuesday, I feel like that is the best way to showcase Braun and Melo for the next crop, to get them ready for like Raw and SmackDown, because people are going to tune into NXT for those two guys. Like, what is Paul Heyman going to do? Is the Bloodline going to be there? Oh, John Cena's on NXT? This is a first time ever. Oh, Cody Rhodes is going to be on NXT. They really want to showcase these guys, having them in the main event, having it billed as the first time ever on like regular television. I think that's honestly the best the best way to showcase them. So yeah, those are some of the guys that I feel like are ready for the next spot.
If I'm not mistaken, they're also going directly against AEW Dynamite that night as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
so the
Taco
return of the
Tuesday or whatever
Tuesday
it's
Night
called.
Wars. Casey Jones. All right, Casey Jones. How do you feel about North Korean wrestling? Haven't seen enough of it, pal.
Nah, me neither.
But I as far as NXT call-ups are concerned, I think those are certainly people that jump out. I don't think that there's going to be that many. I think perhaps they might bring somebody up just to see how they do. Tiffany Stratton seems like she's going to be injured for an extended period of time. Whether she makes a debut on the main roster or not remains to be seen, but she certainly seems like she's out of the title picture for now. And all the other names I think you mentioned are certainly ready, but I got to think that it's going to just at least be two, because you certainly don't want to strip this NXT brand of all its talent. And, you kind of want to give them a little bit of room to have people to work with and stories to tell down there. So if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I'm willing to say that the two talents that are going to be coming up to the main roster are going to be Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker. Based on their involvement with that matchup with John Cena and with Paul Heyman, I think that's great. I think that gets people very intrigued. Could we see Braun Breaker in the Bloodline? I mean, that would be something interesting. Carmelo Hayes, how's he going to come up, up to the main roster? We don't know, but I think those are the two guys that really, really, really jump out. And obviously you see that AEW is going full steam ahead for that Tuesday show. I mean, you got the Edge debut. I think the Edge debut is on that night as well.
Yeah.
You got the Edge debut going head to head with John Cena, Paul Heyman, and Braun Breaker and Carmelo. Carmelo, what is it? I was going to call him Carmelo Garcia.
Carmelo Hayes.
Carmelo Hayes. So yeah, certainly that they got a good show planned, and I'm pretty excited. I can't wait to see that match. I think that's going to have a lot of good emotion in it. Cody showing up there with a special announcement. Is Cody going to enter the Dusty Classic with Jey Uso? That would be something. That would be kind of cool to see. I think that would be something interesting for the fans. But you mentioned a name there that kind of piques my interest. Joe Gacy. So Joe Gacy, obviously, East Coast guy, CZW guy, longtime indie guy, talented dude. Do you think that perhaps he's probably not getting his shot? And I don't know if he's injured or not, but do you think that he might not get any consideration given the fact that he kind of looks like Kevin Owens? Do you think that perhaps they might want to try and bring him up with a different look?
Maybe. I mean, I think his character is so well done, though. Like, I love the idea of the way he works. I don't know if that Kevin Owens factor matters, but we've definitely had wrestlers that are similar in look.
Right.
So
right.
We'll see.
What are your impressions of Ava Raine? How do you feel about her and how she's come along?
I like what I've seen so far. She's really, really green in the ring. You could tell she doesn't necessarily know how to bump. She doesn't know how to hit yet. She's dealing with a lot of stuff. I feel like she needs a lot more work. She's years away from being ready for anything like a Raw or a SmackDown.
Fair. I think her promo work has improved. I think that she's trying to find her groove. The in-ring stuff obviously is going to take time, especially if you've never really done that. And that's not something that you did necessarily. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody has the advantage of wrestling each other or wrestling with their friends or doing stuff like that or trying things like that. Maybe she might have, I don't know. But you got to think, based on her lineage, sooner or later, it's going to start clicking and it's going to start working in her favor. And I can certainly see her being a player in the future. But I'm with you. I think as far as these NXT call-ups are concerned, I don't think we're going to get that many. But if I had to say, I would say Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker are certainly a shoe-in for making the main roster. All right. Well, Mach, it's time for our main event topic of the evening. And this main event topic has been brought to you by our friends at Burger King. Enjoy a choice variety of any type of burger sandwich to your liking. I'm here enjoying the Impossible Whopper.
There you go.
Delicious. Absolutely delicious. Burger King. Have it your way. Our main event topic this evening is going to be me and Mach collectively and separately, I would say, our 5 MVPs of the year, our candidates for MVP of the year, and the MVP of the year will be announced on the last episode of Working the Marks for 2023, which I'm going to check right now, and I'm sure we're probably going to end up moving it, but it'll be somewhere probably before Christmas because, whatever, we're probably going to, not do Christmas shows. But we'll certainly be announcing our MVP of the year at the end of the year. Today, we're going to present you with the candidates. This is like the fucking Oscars. We're going to give it to you months ahead, and then, we might as well open up some voting, right? If anybody's listening, if our guy, Timothy Brown, is out there, shout out to Timothy Brown, Working the Marks top guy. We're going to open up the voting for the MVPs of the year on our Instagram. You people can vote on it. And you can decide who you think is the MVP of 2023. But aside from our MVP, we're also going to have our Bust of the Year, or as I like to refer to it, the Bodie or Booty. We could just call it the Booty because you booty. You booty. Yeah. You garbage.
Booty as fuck.
So, Mach, I'm going to hand it over to you. I would like to hear your 5 MVPs of the year and your Bust of the Year. And please allow me to chime in. Share some thoughts on what you have done and what you have said. What is this? Hold on a second. Tim pulled his quad, man. Well, sending all the best to Tim, man. Hope you heal up well, brother. Thank you for tuning into the show, and we can't wait to have you back on here on Working the Marks, chiming on in with us. But I'll get in and I'll give my say on some of the stuff you're saying. So, Mach, the floor is yours.
All right, so number 1 on my list is Bryan Danielson. I feel like Bryan Danielson is absolutely the MVP of the year. Obviously, you guys will vote on that, and you'll figure out who you think it is. To me, everything Bryan has done, going back to re-debuting with the BCC, his feud with Okada, all of the promos leading up to his match with Okada, I think going from there to Zack Sabre Jr., kind of just being that guy who works every now and then. I just feel like the way he's been working right now, you can't ignore it. It's just been absolutely special in professional wrestling, and I'm excited to see more. I can't wait to see this like Kobe run that he's about to go on. Number 2 on my list, unless you want to chime in before I jump to number 2. Would you rather me just say the top 5 and then you'll just jump in?
No, please. Allow me to say you have no objection from me as far as Bryan Danielson's concerned. But you know what? Run through it, and I'll give you my thoughts at the end, all right?
All right, sounds good. Number 2 on my list, I got to give it to Bayley. I feel like what Bayley's doing in professional wrestling right now is kind of unheard of. She's taken a back seat to help develop these 2 young talents in Io and Dakota, and she's done it in such a way that she's still producing really high-level or good wrestling matches. Her promos have been excellent. I've been very excited with what she's done. And I can't object to the way she's being used. I know a lot of people have said that she's taken a lot of jobs recently, but sometimes losing in wrestling is not the worst thing. And I love how she's pushed Io and Dakota. And the rumors are coming out that WWE is super high on Io right now, and they love the run that she's on. So I think Bayley has a lot to do with that. So she has to get MVP considerations for that as well. Number 3 on my list, I feel like just because it's one of those rare occasions where we're watching him kind of come up with us because we've been fan of his before, is Swerve Strickland. Like, think about it. Like, this is Stephanie McMahon's favorite wrestler, and he's been kind of held down or put in these like multi-man matches. And then we watch him have that big moment with Sting.
Is that official? That's been confirmed that is Stephanie McMahon's favorite wrestler?
Yeah. That was confirmed right after he was released. Isn't that nuts?
Wow, that's funny. That's
yeah. She said that in an interview. It was actually her that said it.
Wow.
So so Swerve Strickland, to me, everything he does, his whole Chris Canyon like wrestling ability, the whole how he's able to like take his music career and add it to professional wrestling. He just feels like a really big deal. And I really, like I said, what he did with Sting at All In in a moment where there was an injury in the ring, and then to watch him do what he did with Hangman Adam Page, and not only hang with Hangman, but like he took the spotlight from him. Everything he did, he just felt bigger than Adam Page, and we all know what AEW feels about Adam Page. He just felt so much bigger. Even the promo he cut before the match at WrestleDream felt like, wow, I don't even think Adam Page can keep up with this. It just felt that real, that good.
I'll say this much. I think for a show that really didn't have a whole heck of a lot of build to it, you know, even the main event, or even not even the main event, I would say even the Danielson match, which to me was the main event, even that didn't have a whole hell of a lot of build to it. I think that's something that they perhaps could have done over a longer period of time to get people more emotionally invested in it. I hate to say it, but that was a wrestling nerd match. You know, like, yeah, that's what that was for. And that's fine. And that's okay because wrestling nerds appreciated it. But I think that with the little bit of TV time that they had, Swerve Strickland certainly took the time, took the opportunity, and made the most of it. And I certainly think that he's a guy whose stock is rising for sure. Absolutely.
And 4 and 5, well, I gotta say it's Dom and Mommy. It's Rhea Ripley and Dominic Mysterio. Nice. I feel like I'm on this island all by myself where I have seen the natural progression of Dom's in-ring ability. I'm watching him get better week to week to week. Sure. His promos are excellent. He's going out there when he's able to talk, when the audience actually lets him talk, he feels natural. It feels like he has embraced this role of being the guy that you're supposed to hate. It reminds me very much of Eddie, and it also reminds me of when Triple H was the biggest heel in the company, and he loved it, where he wanted you to boo him. That's what it feels like. And Rhea Ripley, she, in my personal opinion, I would have her above Bryan in terms of MVP status this year. What she's been able to do for that women's division, what she's been able to do for the Judgment Day, and Raw as a whole. Every time I finish Monday Night Raw, when she's on the show, she feels like the biggest star. And that's the way that she's been progressed. That's the way that she's moved in the ring. She bumps her ass off for everybody. I mean, she's given like 3 or 4 minutes. She had 2 matches this year where she was given 3.5 minutes and 4.5 minutes. She worked Indy Hartwell and she worked Candice LeRae, and she made both of them look like stars in that little bit of time. That to me speaks to her professionalism, and it also speaks to the fact that she is a clear MVP.
Absolutely. Would you say that she's one of the most underrated sellers in the business?
Oh, no question. I don't even know if there's if right now in the entire wrestling business, I don't know if anybody sells like her. She might be like Dolph Ziggler style, like a seller. The way she takes moves, it's insane.
Well, I think like for someone her size, you know, for how imposing she looks compared to a lot of the women in the division, the way she bumps, the way she sells, she's just fantastic, man. Her facial expressions, her mannerisms, and, you know, to your point, you know, you've seen her progression. I mean, she's 6 years in. She looks like a 10-year vet. You know, she just gets better and better every time she comes out there. You know, to me, she kind of, she's kind of like China, but I feel like she's like the next evolution of China, where it's like you see the perception of her as a talent completely different from the other girls, from the other women on the roster. You know, China back in the day, it was all TNA back then. It was all, you know, pillow fights and, you know, puppy this and that, and wrestling and chocolate pudding and all that stuff. And you know, it was like a borderline strip club thing. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't wrestling. And China was the first one to really kind of implement that wrestling, implement it seriously, take it to the men, and do it well. Whether it was Be a Heater with Eddie, being in DX, the thing with Chris Jericho, the match with Double J, all that stuff. Like she sees the opportunity, she made the most of it, and she kind of shattered the ceiling, so to speak, for a lot of the women in the future. And obviously, you know, for me personally, I'd like to think that China had a hand in a lot of the women's wrestling that we see nowadays. And so much so to the point they're like, it's no longer women's wrestling. It's fucking wrestling. It's wrestling. You know, it's not women's or men's wrestling. It's fucking wrestling. And Rhea Ripley is one of the top names in that division, if not in the fucking business. So
Yep, 100%.
yeah, I'm with you on that one. From the Dungeon Podcast with Stu Hart says Ripley is too hot for TV. That sounds like something they would have said in the 90s. Too hot for TV. And it would have been like something in ECW. But Mach, moving on to the negative aspect of this year award nomination, who is Macho Rodriguez, the Pitbull? Who is your bust of the year?
Maxwell Jacob Friedman. I think MJF is the biggest flop of the year. His title reign has been so subpar. And honestly, I posted about him recently on the TikToks. And it was the question was phrased, what is that one wrestling opinion that you have that would have everybody come for you? And I said, I don't get it. I don't understand the MJF thing. And when I look at it today, somebody commented on my page and said, it's because he's over the top. He needs that validation from the crowd. Every other heel that's turned face or face that's turned heel in the business, they don't actually look for the validation of the live studio audience. He sits there and pauses, waiting for them to react to him. And it's not sitting there pacing. He's not pacing. He's actively looking. It's almost like a kid who just put their dirty plate in the dishwasher for the first time. And then they're like, Mommy, Daddy, look what I did. I put my dishes in the dishwasher. That's what it feels like with MJF. I think his title reign has just been awful. And it's nowhere near in comparison to what Roman Reigns has done this past year, just based off the fact that Roman that title matters. People want that title. MJF can go out there and cut promos for weeks, mention WWE in every single promo, and then he doesn't even talk about being champion. And nobody's trying to get the title off him. He has no challengers. It's almost like he picks his own challenger. And it's strange. I watch him. I don't know. I don't get it.
Well,
I think he's a massive
I gotta
flop.
tell you, Mach, you're gonna get a lot of heat with the hardcore marks for that one. MJF is a god to them. I mean, look, here's the thing. I think you bring up a lot of good points. The title run has been underwhelming. He's had some good matches. We can certainly give him that, right? He's had good matches. Mm-hmm. But I'm with you in the sense that the whole shtick is redundant. The whole MJF thing is super redundant. He's good at it, right? He's doing his thing.
Yeah.
You got to give him credit for that. But I do want to see a different coat of paint on MJF. I want to see something different out of him. I think, to me, this is the same thing he's been doing for years. Mm-hmm. And look, the guy's a good promo. He speaks confidently. He hits the same zingers all the time. He mentions WWE quite a lot. I want to see something different from MJF. I would say that this title reign has probably been as bad, if not worse, than Hangman Adam Page's title reign, which I felt was a pretty dead title reign. And you bring up a lot of good points. You really, really do. When I think about it, the perception of the title, for example, when you have Tony Khan at press conferences saying that the international title is more important than the world title, what do you think your audience is going to react to it as?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I agree.
So you kind of look at it as the secondary championship. You kind of look at it as the WWE World Heavyweight title. That's what MJF is. The status of the international title remains to be seen, but yeah, I do agree that you do have some points there. But also being said, he's done everything that he's been asked to do. He stands out from the rest of the guys there. There's no doubt whatsoever. As far as kids in his age group, he fucking stands out. He can work the old school style. He could work on the fly. He could get in the ring and call a match. Not a lot of young guys could fucking do that nowadays, if we're being honest. Okay? And this dude can go out there and he can do that shit. Okay? So I give the kid a lot of credit, but I do agree with you. It is a tad redundant. I'm tired of the whole wannabe Ric Flair thing. I think we're going to save that for an episode called Wrestling Pet Peeves, where we're going to talk about the things in wrestling that we don't fucking like. But one of the things that I do not historically like is the shtick where you're acting like fucking Ric Flair, where you're trying to be the Four Horsemen, or you're trying to be Ric Flair, and you're doing the thing, and you're doing the strut, and you're dressing like this, and the women, and then it's like, I seen this already, bro. I seen this, and Evolution did it better anyway. So like, come on, spare me. So I gotta say I'm halfway with you there. I'm curious to see what people will think of this one. This is certainly one that we got to splice up and put into a short, because the crowd interaction alone, I think, for this one is going to be interesting much. But I like your MVP candidates, and I think you have a very interesting bust of the year, Maxwell Jacob Friedman.
Yes.
So for me, I had to take my time. I had to comb the archives. I had to really sit down and put pen to paper when I was taking a dump, of course. And I came up with a list of 5 candidates and one honorable mention that I would like to include as my nominees of the year. So I'll start off with my honorable mention. My honorable mention for MVP of the year is none other than the most dangerous man in professional wrestling, Dominic Mysterio.
Acknowledge me.
Dom has just gotten better and better and better and better every single week on TV. I think it was about a week ago, he had a match with Dragon Lee on Monday Night Raw. Bro, one of the best fucking matches they've had on Monday Night Raw this year. Amazing, amazing match. Simple storytelling. Dom won without cheating. It was very, very, very well done. And you can see it starting to slow down from Dom now, where like now he's kind of feeling himself more. He's kind of getting more into who he is. His bumping, everything that he's doing is selling. The way he feeds into his next spot, the progression is there. The progression is real, bro. And the dude has nuclear heat. There's really not many people like him, or really anybody like him in that regard. So Dom Mysterio for me, my honorable mention of the year, because this was a tough list to compile. So you know how much I love Dom. You know how big of a fan I am of Dom Mysterio. So for Dom Mysterio to be my honorable mention says a lot about the other 5 candidates here. Moving on, I have Ricky Starks. I think Ricky Starks to me is a guy in AEW who has been taking every opportunity that he has, grabbing the bull by the horns, running with it, taking the ball, shattering the glass ceiling, whatever terminology you want to use for doing good and improving his perception with the audience to be that of a main eventer. Ricky Starks, absolute Ricky Starks, has been doing just that. And I think that he's the guy that understands the business, understands how to work, understands how important character is, how important character is to storytelling, and how storytelling keeps the people coming back, not the fucking fancy moves, So Ricky Starks to me, certainly a guy that is in consideration for MVP of the year. Moving along at number 4, this is going to be a shock, but number 4 for me is the best in the world, CM Punk. CM Punk to me is a guy in 2023 who has had some good matches. Not all of it's been fantastic. It's been a little bit messy, a little, not particularly put together, but nonetheless, it's been good enough. His psychology, his storytelling, his ability to connect with an audience, his ability to be talked about. I mean, whether you fucking like him or fucking hate him, you're going to talk about the guy. He's going to keep his name out there. He's super interesting. And the dude is the best promo of his generation and arguably one of the best promos of all fucking time. And I'll take the fucking Pepsi challenge on that shit. Okay? CM Punk can fucking talk. And he's super interesting. And I think in an era where a lot of the old timers are going out there and saying these guys are soft, they're playing video games, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, CM Punk stood up for himself. Granted, it was against the Beverly Hills rich kid who thinks he's from the jungle, but he stood up for himself. And he said, hey, motherfucker, no te pongas conmigo. And he fucking slapped him in the face. And he choked him out. And I think CM Punk is a guy who fucking stood up for himself and was in a shitty situation where people use their fucking power to fucking sabotage him. So CM Punk for me is certainly very much in the MVP conversation for 2023, and a guy that I'm pretty sure we're going to be talking about towards the end of 2023, well into 2024. Believe that. Moving along, at number 3, I have none other than the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes,
I love it.
Since coming back from injury, the Rumble, WrestleMania, the feud with Brock. The feud with Brock, man. I mean, you know, that feud to me is one of the best modern feuds we've had in a while. Okay? Those guys put a shift in every fucking match. Obviously, for me, the favorite matchup was the one in Puerto Rico. I thought it was great. And that crowd was white hot. What else would you expect from a Puerto Rican wrestling crowd? They were into everything that was going on, and Brock getting busted open and bleeding. I mean, wow. It just added so much to the match. And then Cody outsmarting him, using his technique to fucking pin him. Absolutely brilliant storytelling. Everything that Cody Rhodes has done this year has been fucking fantastic. Everybody could talk about, oh, he should have won at WrestleMania. He should have won here. He should have done this. He should have done that. No. What he did and what went down is exactly what was supposed to go down and has made Cody Rhodes such a huge star for WWE. Yes. And that's why he's my
If
MVP
only he could connect with the audience.
For MVP. Yeah. What's that?
If only he can connect with the audience.
Yeah, if only he can connect with the audience. Yeah, you know, because they're totally quiet during that fucking theme song too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, don't you find this funny? This negativity towards Cody, and this fabricated perception that Cody is not as over as he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's silly, isn't it?
Yeah, it's silly. Just Vince Russo trying to get heard.
Well, yeah, Vince. I think it's also a lot of people, you know, that are out there that bro. I would love to see a conversation with Vince Russo and Matt Riddle. I swear, and then just throw in Matt Cardona, and it would be a bro off. But yeah, I think Cody Rhodes, again, he's a dude that's a certified main eventer. He's a star. Everything he does is fucking top notch. And certainly a guy that deserves to be in this conversation. And speaking of at number 2, I know you're going to find this shocking that he's number 2, but at number 2 this year for me is the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. To your point, the guys had amazing matches. And the biggest thing for me about him and this run and everything that he's been doing this last year has been the fact that he goes into these matches with little to no heat. I mean, nothing. Because AEW doesn't really, you know, do TV that well. They don't plan this stuff out. There's no soap opera style storytelling. It's not like WWE the way they do it to get people invested emotionally. And with little to no build, this guy creates heat. He creates a build in the match. We had talked about the Zack Sabre Jr. match and our observations on that match, and it's a similar case. You know, he creates this heat. He creates a story within the match that could potentially stretch out to something else. Obviously, the match against Okada this year, one of the gutsiest performances we've ever seen from a fucking wrestler. You know, broken forearm, improvises, still taps out Okada. What a fucking match. I got to be honest, if the crowd wasn't dead from that Ospreay Omega fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre match that they had, the video game match that they had, I would say that the crowd would have been a lot more into that main event. Obviously, the show was like 7 hours long, and that didn't help either, but that match was fantastic. Everything that Danielson has done, the spots that he's been asked to step up into, you really can't say anything bad about Bryan Danielson this year and what he's done.
Yes.
And finally, at number 1 for my MVP of the year, my number 1 candidate for the MVP of the year, some people might say he is the one. He's the one. Acknowledge him. Roman Reigns. Reigns. He's the reason why people are interested in WWE and what is going on. And I know that might sound a little ridiculous to people, but you look at the Bloodline storyline, you look at everything that has sprouted off of it. I mean, it's like a fucking vine. You know, all these other leaves, all these other roots are sprouting all over the place. And everything, if you go back to it, all the guys that are over right now, Cody, Sammy, Kevin, Finn to some extent, You know, all these people that are over, they all stem from the bloodline and from the fantastic storytelling that's gone on with that angle. And if you don't think that Roman Reigns is the fucking man right now, you're out of your fucking mind, bro.
Agreed.
And you're just oblivious to what the fucking truth is, because anytime this guy shows up on TV, in an arena, anywhere, all of the attention is his. There's nobody like him. He's the guy. Roman Reigns, my number one MVP candidate for the year.
Yes.
And folks,
Yes.
we're gonna do a mix as well of mine and Mach's candidates, and we're gonna post them up on our Instagram page, and you people can vote for them, and you can let us know who you think is the Working the Marks MVP of 2023. And now for my bust of the year, I think I'm gonna get heat. I thought you got heat with yours, but I think I'm gonna get heat with mine. My bust of the year is none other than L.A. Knight. Yeah.
Yes.
The same
Yes.
wrestler.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. Here's the thing. I know a lot of people are gonna say, "Oh my God," but he's over and he's selling T-shirts and he's doing this and he's doing that. I see just another mid-card guy. Okay. I see a dude who's over right now, but he's no different than Zack Ryder. He's no different than Elias. He's no different than a lot of these other mid-card guys that had their moment in the sun, that had the crowd cheering for them, that had the crowd into them. Right?
Boogs.
Even Boogs. Yeah, we could throw him into the list. Sure. Absolutely. My thing with LA Knight, and look, he's being put in a good situation now with John Cena getting involved in the Bloodline storyline. Obviously, we reported last week Billy Body, spelled Bhatti, not body, like Body, body.
Yes.
Billy Body reported that LA Knight will get the win
Speak
this
proper
weekend
English.
over one of the Bloodline members. And that will lead to a title match with Roman Reigns at the Saudi Arabia show. This is his opportunity. This is his moment. And he hasn't, for me, he's over. He's doing all this stuff great, but he hasn't had that moment. He hasn't had that moment that changes his perception, that makes him a star and gets people hooked in like they should. You know what I mean? Steve Austin, a guy who he knows pretty darn well, Steve Austin was on that trajectory once upon a time. The crowd was into him. They were feeling him. They liked his actions. They were chanting for him. Austin 316, all this stuff. And then what happened? He had a match with Bret Hart. And he was always a good worker. But that matchup at WrestleMania 13 with Bret the Hitman Hart, that changed Steve Austin forever. That was the infamous double turn. And seeing that image of Steve, that bloody, iconic image of Steve in the sharpshooter screaming in agony and the blood pouring down his face, that's iconic, man. That was a star-making moment. I feel like LA Knight has not had a star-making moment, and they've put him in situations where they should be kind of star-making moments, but I don't think that it's there yet. We'll see what happens between now and that Saudi Arabia show and that opportunity against Roman Reigns. But as of now, I would say that LA Knight is my bust of the year.
Okay. So just a few thoughts off your list. Obviously, we have the same couple people with Dom and Brian. I love your idea of Roman, because Roman has just been that guy. He's the reason you tune into WWE. He's the reason you watch SmackDown. So I love that too. He's also produced really great matches. As for your bust of the year, I agree with you. To be quite honest, I've never seen someone get up so quickly the way LA Knight has, and then just kind of like fizzle away. It doesn't even seem like the fan bases are crazy enough for him the way they were. Like when you watch like the live tapings, and when you see like all of the premium live events or the paid live events, when you watch it, it's almost like, is it slowly like turning? It's almost like people are like, because I feel like his in-ring work is so mid, I would say, that it's hard for people to get behind him. And I don't want to disparage anybody who's passed away. I want to be super respectful, but I've always felt that this was the reason Bray Wyatt wasn't able to capitalize on his character, because his in-ring work never followed with how great his character and storytelling was. He didn't. I forgot, somebody just recently said it, a wrestler just recently said this about Bray, and I feel this way about LA Knight, that he cared so much about character and story that wrestling was secondary to all of that stuff. And the thing is, when you're coming out of a match with LA Knight, and your questions aren't, wow, look at that crowd, look at how great they were, LA Knight looked great. It's always like, man, when are we going to watch that like really good LA Knight match? That's the question that always comes out of these matches. I think that's really mind-boggling to me. So yeah, I agree. I think that's a great list. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that both of us have interesting ones, and obviously guys that are really hot with the internet mark community. We're gonna probably get a lot of flack for that as well. But feel free to chime in, folks. We love the discourse. We love the conversation. If you do like LA Knight, you don't like LA Knight, you like MJF, you don't like MJF, feel free to chime in. Even if you hate Roman Reigns, whatever it is, give us your thoughts. We'll dissect them. We'll talk about them. And we will certainly have votes coming for this. This will not be a crooked election. No one will steal it. Wow, I shouldn't be saying that with a red hat on, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly we're gonna have some voting coming up for that soon, and you people can all chime in. Mach, before we go, anything you want to leave us with? Anything you want to say? Anything you want to plug before we say goodbye to the viewers here on Working the Marks?
Well, yeah, I actually wanted to thank you and Dee and Uribe. I don't know if the news has actually been put on this, but you guys last week officially invited me to join your group to be a part of the podcast, and I wanted to just express my appreciation. I didn't know how well it would work. I know you and I have a relationship going back to when we were 13 years old.
Yes.
So we're brothers, you know, not blood related, but we are brothers. And I'm just really appreciative that you guys have included me in this, and I look forward to hopefully helping you guys build this platform.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. We appreciate you accepting the invite to join us. We know that you have, your own brand going on with Must Love Wrestling, as well as the Canadian-Rican connection, as I like to call it. But we appreciate you taking time from your schedule to join us here on Working the Marks, and we look forward to having you as one of the lead voices here on Working the Marks. Maybe eventually you will get to the go to the show status, and we will add Abdul Jabbar to your name. You could be Macho Rodriguez Abdul Jabbar, but we'll see about that. But in all seriousness, we really appreciate you being on. We appreciate your insight, and we certainly look forward to bringing you more great wrestling content here with Macho Rodriguez on Working the Marks. All right, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. We'll look more into North Korean wrestling, whatever that means. And Macho Rodriguez, thank you for joining us here tonight. We look forward to seeing you again. There it is again. We look forward to having you on again next week, which it'll probably be you and me again next week because I don't know, somebody's gonna be doing something else. But anyways, Dee, thank you so much for putting this here together. We thank our producer, Dee Rotten. Check us out on Instagram. Check us out on YouTube. Throw a subscribe. Sharon is Karen, except when STDs. And thanks to Famcast Media for having us on. He is the Pitbull Macho Rodriguez. I am Patty Rican Abdul Jabbar to go to the show. And every week here on the interwebs, we are Working the Marks. Take it easy, everybody. Have a great night.
Famcast Media.